Welcome to issue 144 of the Captain's Log. As you know, I use this space to reflect on my writing and work in the week and sometimes to provide a deeper context to that. And this week has been unusual. It's been a bit unsettling. It's been fractured and fragmented. I haven't felt able to settle into things well. And so yesterday, I, with some trepidation, turned to the manuscript for the book on togetherness and otherness and thought I'd just spend a couple of hours on that, not expecting to get anywhere. In fact, I was expecting to feel quite disheartened by the work. It's a bit fragmentary at the moment. But I felt the opposite. I found that things that had been written over the last few weeks kind of suddenly made sense of it, or it was very easy to do some editing with a fresh pair of eyes to tighten it up. Although, of course, the fresh pair of eyes wasn't my own because I've started collaborating on that book with my friend Susie, who's been giving her input. And so we've started batting it backwards and forwards a bit. And it's worked really nicely. It's done exactly what I hoped, which is create a bit of a flow. We're kind of painting colour around what each other is writing. It's a reminder that collaboration is hard. I don't write well with many people, but when you find it, it can be very rewarding. It can really help. So it's been a bit of a bright spot in my week. I've also been developing out some of the illustrations for togetherness and otherness. And I found that I've been using images of ice, which is rather funny, but I'm just going with it. For the humble leader work, I used leaves. The idea is that we are in the organisation, this ecosystem, and we leave things behind, the leaves falling from the trees, part of our cycle of renewal. I think the ice, the glaciers and icebergs and snowflakes have come from that language we use about being left out in the cold or describing communities as entities that are warm. You know, we have a warmth, a sense of belonging. So perhaps inevitably the work on togetherness and otherness, which explores what it feels like or means to be together and how we are made the other or make people the other and exclude them. Perhaps inevitably there is a temperature gradient to that work as well. So I'm fairly sure that should it come together nicely, it will form a sequel to The Humble Leader. Not in terms of the topic, but in terms of a series of guided reflections. It'll be a guided reflection on what it means to be together and what it means to be the other, and why those things are inevitable. You know, we often use language in organizations about inclusion, and rightly so, and we talk about the way that everyone is welcome. But of course, that's not the natural state of our social structures. But by that, what I mean is that our social structures have boundaries. They're not endlessly open. And this is not specifically about the types of differences we think about in DE and I, diversity, equity, equality, inclusion conversations. It's about difference in terms of our social tribal contexts. So we form communities of the people who we know and trust. We weave that connection. People describe clearly how it gives them safety and comfort and belonging. And often it's those spaces of belonging that are valued to us. So we get this uncomfortable situation where our spaces of belonging will tend to be monocultural, at least to a degree. They will tend to be people who are kind of like us. And we argue, of course, that we form those for all sorts of good reasons. But communities are inherently entities of exclusion because not anybody can join them. They all have a boundary. So at some point, we have to negotiate this uncomfortable truth that our social structures are not flat and level and are not open. And it's not simply a case of telling people to make them open. Rather, what I suspect we need is a language of interconnection about a way that we are able to hear and see each other better. Of course, people don't just belong in one community. In the communities research, they describe they belong to, on average, 15 different communities. So again, maybe there is a taxonomy of communities from the very broad and exclusive down to narrower, smaller ones. I suspect that when I think about this, I find it uncomfortable in many ways, because you can almost sound like you're rationalizing these differences. But it's worth noting that our social structures are these places where we open up, where we share, we act differently within them. And so inherently, the self is invested within it. It's not to say you can't create groups that are different, but you can't make people trust each other. So perhaps, again, we just need to be very open about that, to understand that for all of us, there will be spaces where we belong, there will be spaces where we trust, there will be spaces where we tolerate, actually, which is, again, important. Tolerated difference is an important notion. You cannot, except in naivety, believe that we will all be the same and believe the same. To overcome our differences isn't about colonizing the other, nor is it about throwing away the things we hold true, but it may be about understanding what tolerance means in a very connected sense. The ability to have a conversation, to say, we agree in these areas, we disagree in these areas. We know that we can agree well, but can we disagree well? And then, of course, there is something that pulls into this work from the quiet leadership work on humility, which is, once we've done that, we can say, where are the shadows? And perhaps that does bring us back to a more typical, traditional language of inclusion, where we say it's all very well that we have comfort in our community and we have tolerance between communities, but where are the shadows? Who is left out of that? Who is excluded? And how will we reach out to them? And if it sounds confused, it's okay, because it is confusing. It's difficult. That's what I want to do in this work. Explore togetherness and otherness in an interconnected way through people's experiences. What it feels like to be together, what it feels like to be made the other. What does it give you? What does it take away from you? How do we navigate that journey? So that's it. I've fitted a lot into that 2 hours of writing this week. What else is going on? I've got a new quiet leadership journey kicking off next week. There's spaces on that. There are 10 more journeys through the rest of this year. You can easily find the link to that work and sign up if you like. It's completely free and open for that 4-week journey. I hope you've had a great week, and I will see you next time.